Okay, and we're back. So I've used my assembly jig here, which has the stepped washers on it. You don't have to do this. You can hold it together with a piece of tape. But, if you've got a thing, something to make a little wing nut and a nut there that'll fit through that hole, by all means, go ahead. It definitely helps make it easy. The other thing, too, is the wing nut acts like a little pair of legs. So when I'm trying to solder, nothing is in, I don't have to do it right on the ground or on the mat itself. So, okay. So to start, let's get things connected. So again, just to reiterate as well, you can attach the cables on either side of the blade, right? You can attach them on the bottom and then route them between the two capacitors here, and you're perfectly fine. If you are going to be adding the switch mod, I would actually recommend doing it this way, just because it helps you get a little bit more clearance once you're actually assembling the blade itself. It's definitely a little easier to do if you have the wires mounted this way, but they don't have to be mounted on one way or the other. It makes no functional difference in the blade itself. Okay, it's just more of a preference thing, right? So let's start with the data line. Okay, go ahead and set that in here. It's going to use the blade to hold it down. Okay, I'm going to grab my Kester solder. Again, I'm at 300 degrees Celsius, right? Touch the wire and the contact pad that it's going to get soldered to. Add some solder and off, right? So what you should see is, I'm going to hold this up, see how close I can get it to the camera and still have it focus. Come on. What you should see is like a little pyramid Christmas tree shape type thing, right? Where it goes all the way down to the contact itself. Right? If you see a ball on top, it means you've got a cold solder joint, and it'll either be loose or become loose slowly over time, and you'll end up with problems actually, with the blade communications, right? So let's go ahead and we'll put in the negative. Let me get my cables a little more organized here. Hold on, sorry. Negative. Come on. Negative and positive battery terminals going there. Again, you'll notice on this one I'm doing a little bit out of order. It's okay. It's all going to go together just fine. Okay, so we're going to start with the positives. It's a little easier to do. Contact with the pad and the wire. Add solder. Give it a second. Heat off. Okay, that's a great solder joint right there too. So now I'm going to move on to the negative. Bigger ground plane here. So give it a little extra second or two. Okay, bring in the solder. Should see the solder kind of go down and sit on the pad itself. And we're good. Just going to remelt it and really make sure I got it on there. Oh yeah, it's on there good. Okay. Again. Right? You should see little Christmas tree or pyramid shapes in those. Okay, and it's weird. In just that amount of heat that was in that negative plane, the capacitors are hot. Or not hot, but warm, right? So that ground plane grabs heat pretty quickly, even on mine, which is a little bit reduced ground plane. But okay, so now we're ready to actually do the board part. So make sure I'm nice and centered for you guys. Hopefully I've fixed the focus problem that I was running into before, so you guys will actually be able to see me do this. Okay, so again, a little bit of solder on the soldering iron, touch it to the contact pad, then add in more. Boom. Okay, clean. solder, contact pad, add. Nope. Boom. Okay, let me show you my work here. Okay, they should look like just little ramps off the top board onto the bottom board. That's what they're supposed to look like. Okay, now let's go to the fun part. Again, I have this oriented this way, so I don't have, so basically, so it's not in the way. Okay, I'm going to start with one. And then I'm going to move on to the others. Sometimes you got to add a little more solder. Sometimes you got to just kind of spread it around. Okay, this is good solder, so the flux in it lasts a good long time. So you've got time, no reason to rush. I do still have a bridge though, right? So once again, just like in the last video, I'll show you how to get rid of the bridges, right? So a couple tips on this too that I didn't, I just didn't go slow enough and didn't show you last time. Go slow on this, right? Don't put too much solder in. Less is more, right? You can do each individual tab if you really wanted to, and solder them and handle them one at a time. Or you can use the drag method if you're confident in your soldering skills, and then if you're confident in the quality of your solder, right? The quality of solder is more about the quality of the flux that's in the solder than the actual solder itself, because they all pretty much use the same components, right? So there's lots of different types of fluxes. I'm not going to get into all the different brands and flavors and all that kind of stuff, right? But essentially in this case here, right, we've got probably too much solder. Okay, so I could stand to lose a little bit of solder. So what I'll do is I'll clean my soldering tip off, and I'll just melt those two contacts, and I'll try to lift more onto the soldering iron itself. You see how the soldering iron grabbed some? And guess what? It got rid of the contacts, right? So I don't need to add more flux in this particular case because, again, the Kester solder flux is really, really good flux, right? So it still was there. It wasn't all burned off. So it's still going to allow me to do the job. And as you can see now, look at that. Perfectly distinct 7 connections, right? They all look good. They all have like this U shape right here at the joint where they're going up and connecting to that castellated end, right? So a lot of times when people are assembling this is the hardest part, okay? And just, they're usually, when I see the results of the pictures that they show me and things like that, they've either got too much solder on there, they've burned off all the flux, so it's just one big blob or multiple blobs, okay? And they just, you got to get less solder, better solder, or add flux, right? That's where the chip quick flux comes in. Add that solder flux to it, helps it flow again, and you're off to the races, right? So let me take the screw off here, the assembly jig I call it, and I can give you some good close-ups of that solder joint. It's in there. Okay, so that's what you're after. Okay, again, it's not going to show the angle, but okay, that's kind of what your goal is, right? And then the back part as well, right? Everything is nice and sandwiched together. There's no glue or anything that holds this board on, right? So it's basically just being held on by the strength of the solder pad up front and the solder pads back here at the ground pads, right? So and again, there's a point of diminishing returns where you just can't add more solder to make it stronger. It's not going to do it, right? Because it's going to depend on the 2 pads, right? Pad on the top, pad on the board, pad on the top, pad on the board, right? So but that basically, that is the assembly process right there. If you're If you don't have the ability to magnify it, I highly recommend just using the camera, the phone, your phone camera, and zooming in on it really close, right? Or if you have a magnifying glass, that's fine. Or if you have a digital microscope like I do, that's even better. But I can look at this right now and I can tell that it's good, right? But if you have any doubts, you can always do continuity test between pads, and just make sure that you don't have any bridges there. And the nice thing is that even if you did have bridges and you plug this thing in and you got it all hooked up or anything, you can't really burn anything out on this end of the board with anything that happens at this pad here, right? Now, granted, leaving it for a really long time might do something to your board itself. So, but if you don't have that result, don't plug in your board. Don't plug in your saber, right? So, anyways, end of sermon. Like I said, I was just going to be redoing this part here. The rest is just like in the other video that I sent out. It is, pretty straightforward from here. Again, I wanted to make this video because for me, straightforward, I've done literally dozens of these. You saw my dead pile from the last video, right? I've done dozens of these now. So for me, it's just kind of rinse and repeat. It's very easy to do, but I kind of sat back, looked at that video and said, hey, if this was the first time I was watching it, that really wouldn't instill much confidence that I will be able to do this, right? So I wanted to give you guys a good detailed view, let you know that, you can do it. You just have to be able to, kind of slow down, go slow, do it well, focus on quality, and, you'll get a good result. So I'm going to clean this up, throw it into the blade, and we'll have another one done. Thanks. Bye.